Welcome to the Get Real with King Arthur show. Merry Christmas. Anyway, today I want to talk about a new Christmas saint. We've had good King Wenceslas called a saint, and Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, a saint. We got a new one, a woman this time. First, I want to say that Wayne called in about the program on tips and said that, do you know what tip means? And I didn't. Well, it means top in performance. And he made the point that originally the tip was a special gift for outstanding, unusual performance. Well, it's kind of watered down now. However, he thinks there still should be some connection between good service and getting a tip. Anyway, we have a new, old Christmas saint to add to Saint Nicholas and King Wenceslas called a saint. I get my information from Bob Wheeler, who is a great sports reporter and writer and authority on Jim Thorpe, the great American Indian football player. So he's writing a Saints book after spending his life largely writing about sports. Anyway. Now, Zita was a poor girl about 1200 AD, who lived in a very poor family. It hadn't rained for a year, and they were almost totally out of food. And so she suggested that she go as a servant to some wealthy household to bring a little money to her family. And so they walked to this wealthy house at Lucca and were met by the rich owner, a silk trader. And at first he was going to turn her away. Then she spoke up and she said, I want to serve God by serving you. So anyway, he won her heart. And so she began working, washing dishes, doing maid, ironing, domestic chores, whatever. Now, her one request was that every morning she be allowed to attend Mass at the local Roman Catholic Church. And the other servants laughed at this piety and gave her extra work because they, I don't know, bothered them that she was pious. Maybe it put them to shame, probably. Anyway, so he won the favor of this rich merchant because of her deeds and her, by the way, she helped poor people along with that. But anyway, the Christmas part of this is that on the holidays, she got up very early to set the banquet table for the celebration of Christmas. And that took a long while, a lot of work. She had to get up really early. But then she was ready to head out the door to her faithful attendants at church. And as she opened the door, there was a blizzard going on. And she was ready to step out the door with no coat. And the rich owner saw her and just spontaneously took off one of his coats with a silk lining and gave it to her, lent it to her. He said, you can't go out in this blizzard. Well, see, I must, she said. So anyway, she ran through the blizzard to the church door, and there, on the steps, was a man shivering with no coat. It looked as if he might just die. And spontaneously, she took off this silk-lined coat and gave it to this man while she lent it while she was in church. Yeah, that's a good way to go to church, to do some good deed, anyway, on the way. She came out, and the coat was gone, and the man was gone. So she had to run back through the blizzard to the house, crying because she had lost her master's silk-lined coat. Oh, boy. And he tried to comfort her, and she was afraid he would fire her or something, and she's crying, and there's a knock at the door. And they opened it up, and of course the blizzard was about to come in and whatnot, but the man was there. And he had the coat all folded up neatly, and he presented it to Zita. And rejoicing, she was about ready to welcome him in and help him maybe with an old coat. And they opened the door, looked, he's gone, disappeared. I mean, they looked all around, he's gone. Now, I have it reminded me of an incident that took place with me, not at Christmas time, but I want to tie this incident that took place to me together with Zita. I was at the fitness center on Broadway in San Diego, and stopped at the desk to call a taxi to go home. It was, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And went down the 5 stories to Broadway, and there was no taxi. And it started to get dark. I'm sure I must have said a prayer. Whoa. I did have my mobility cane then. And so I headed for the bus stop. I said, well, I used to take the bus, to get the bus stop. And a young man came walking down the sidewalk, very neat, with a backpack on him, and said that he had just arrived in San Diego, and he would take me down to the bus stop. So we went down, and he said, the 7 bus doesn't run here anymore. Oh, I said, well, I have to go way up to the other bus stop. He said, I'll go with you. So as we were walking up to go to the second bus stop, he whistled for a taxi. And the taxi pulled over, and the driver said, hi, Art. And that's the end of the story. I don't know. Was he an angel or something? I don't know. And although the Catholic Church checked out the story of Zita, they never hypothesized, who was this man shivering on the steps of the church that borrowed this silk-lined coat? Why did he disappear? Was he an angel? Whoa. They never attempted to. I mean, they didn't know. I don't know. But I tell you that young man's appearance was unusual, because I've been on the streets of San Diego with my mobility cane and disoriented and asked passersby the name of the street because I'm legally blind. They wouldn't even look at me. Contrast that with this young man just at the right time walking down the sidewalk, ready to help me, or whatever. And we don't know the story of happened to Zita, but I think she is worthy, well honored, and appropriately honored as a saint. A poor peasant girl, and we don't know all the story. We don't know the incident that happened to me, but makes a good Christmas story, doesn't it? That he who would help the poor shall himself find blessing. That's part of the hymn to good King Wenceslas. So add this to your Christmas stories. Might be good to tell your kids this. Tell them about St. Nicholas. They already know about him. Tell them about King Wenceslas, who saw this poor man trying to gather wood in a blizzard, and Zita, who gave up her coat that she borrowed to help some struggling man. Wonderful celebrations of this wonderful of all holidays. Merry Christmas to you. Tell the story of Zita to your kids.